Welcome back, adventurers. Well, big week of disasters this week for the YouTube sailing channels. 4 of the top channels face disasters in one way or another, including the Vagabond and the Wynns. Come along this week as we shed some light on what to do in the face of a disaster. And this could make the difference between losing your boat or saving it. So, find out how by kicking off your shoes and come barefoot with us. We are John and Ali, the Barefoot Doctors, sailing and travelling around the globe. Join us as we share the adventure and explore the beauty of the world, because life is better barefoot. Well guys, welcome back to Barefoot Doctors Sailing, and it has been a big week this week for news in the sailing community. What's happened?
Yeah, look, the biggest YouTube channels have had serious events that have negatively impacted them this week. And out of this comes some really important things that we thought everybody should know about, because it's how you handle those sort of catastrophes and disasters and manage yourself both during the problems and after the problems that are important.
But what's happened?
Okay, look, I'm sure everybody will have known that the Vagabonds have had a trawler, a fishing boat, run into them in the middle of the night and cause some serious damage to their armour, the one float out to the side. So that has been broken. Fortunately, there's no injuries.
And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. So no water was taken into the main part of the hull of the main boat. Just like when we had our fire, the boat was destroyed in 15 minutes, but the first thing we had to say, there's been no deaths, there's been no serious injuries that won't heal.
Thank goodness.
And thank goodness we were not on the boat. Things and stuff can be replaced, but people and injuries can cause long-term problems. So firstly, thank goodness nobody was hurt. Secondly, it's important that nobody gets long-term emotional upset from these sort of things, and that's really what we're going to talk about in a bit more detail going forward. However, there's a whole lot of other people had bad things happen this week.
There are. So another issue here is the Wynns. Now they've had ongoing problems with their new HH catamaran and their hybrid electrical systems, and like anything that is a new innovation, there can be problems.
So yeah, in the last episode last week they showed everyone how they had burnt out 2 of their engine batteries because of the hybrid system and the wiring within that, and that was 3 months ago. 3 months later they're still having problems, it hasn't been resolved, and the boat's out of the water. So this is really awful for them, and that is one of the problems you have when you have something at the cutting edge of developing technology. We are also seriously concerned about these sort of problems because we are looking at hybrid solutions as well, and we're also buying cutting edge, new, never been done before boat as well. So I mean, all of these things are problems which we potentially face when we're dealing with cutting edge stuff. So we feel absolute sympathy for both the Vagabonds and the Wynns. Those situations are just awful, and there is going to be a process for both of them to get through and to come out the other side with the resolution in whatever way they feel is most appropriate. A few weeks ago, Breaking Waves had their monohull up on the rocks, and they thought they were in serious risk of losing their boat. I'm very surprised it survived the pounding that it was. It was lying on its side.
Dreadful.
They fortunately got off the boat, but they went through this same horrendous trauma that we have experienced as well.
People were reaching out to us to say, you know, well, you guys are the experts. What have you got to say for it? And so we thought, well, this is a very appropriate time to give some information about just that. Also, we wanted to illustrate for all those people out there that have aspirations of going sailing, you know, sailing up and sailing the world, and it's wonderful, you know, truly it is a wonderful lifestyle. But this is the reality of what you might encounter. You know, you're dealing with the weather, Mother Nature, you know, the sea. Sometimes it's your fault and you go, oh, well, that was a really stupid mistake that catapulted this event. But sometimes it's not your fault at all, and it's just a freak of nature, or it's an accident
or a breakage, or a whale hitting you, or a container hitting you. It is not always your fault. So no amount of experience and skill can absolutely protect you from accidents or events. The mast might fall down in the middle of the ocean, lightning can strike.
People can hit you like fishing boats and things like that that aren't looking out for anything to be in that area.
Yeah, so the important thing here is if you're planning to go sailing, you really need to have some established skills so that if you are facing a major event or a major potential catastrophe, you have the skills to move through that process effectively, both in a practical sense so you can be effective in that scenario, and secondly, so that it doesn't ruin your mental state.
What's been happening is there is a catastrophe of some sort, and because people aren't emotionally equipped to deal with it, what can happen and what has happened is people completely fall apart, and it's almost like they're rocking in fetal position in a corner or crying and not being able to think because they're so emotional. It's not only not good for you, but it's a danger to other people, because you should be out there helping whoever is trying to save the boat or people or whatever, rather than rocking in a fetal position in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, or being hysterical, shouting and screaming, because in any emergency situation, you have to have your wits about you. You have to be calm and controlled and do the actions that are needing to be done. And if you have a person or a couple of people overreacting and getting hysterical, then other people have to help those individuals, which take away the manpower to fix the actual problem. So you're actually not only not helping the situation, you're making the situation dramatically worse.
So we think we're placed pretty well to give this advice, because not only professionally we've learnt all these skills, because professionally we have to be able to keep our heads and not crumble under the pressure. And secondly, we've been through these experiences ourselves firsthand, so we think we're pretty well placed to be giving some advice.
What experiences have we been through, honey?
Oh, things like fires, groundings,
Yes,
dragging anchors, nearly crashing into
rocks,
rocks, like
boats filling up with water,
propellers being jammed while we're almost smashing into another rock and another boat.
GPS not working when we're in a...
Oh, you name it. When you sail for... Well, John's been sailing for 50 years. So when you sail for that length of time, you're bound to accumulate these experiences. So fortunately for you guys, we can share them with you.
And I suppose it's because we're so old, we've been doing this for so long, this is just a statistical thing, isn't it? The longer you're doing it, the more accidents are going to happen.
That's it. So we are more than happy to share our experience and our knowledge with you guys. And look, even if you're not a sailor or you're not involved in the sailing community in any way, these techniques that we're going to teach you are good for your average everyday life. Any time that you have a drama or you have a situation, this helps you not just fall apart at the seams. Give an example of the type of training we've had in the medical field, so that people understand what sort of background training we've had.
Well, obviously in the medical situation, we have training on how to manage cardiac arrest and acute emergencies, maybe multiple road traumas, those sort of things. And really the key is you've got to stay calm and you've got to stay focused, because you've got to work out what are the steps I can take here to help the situation. I need to prioritize those steps, and without a very calm, detached, logical thought process, you can't do that. You can't think logically if you're very emotional. So as soon as you start getting hysterical and thinking, oh my God, we're going to die, we're going to lose the boat, this is awful, then you stop thinking about solutions. You stop working out the essential steps you need to take. Well, even if you are going to sink and you are going to lose the boat, what do you need to get off the boat? There are really important steps. Don't get drawn into the emotion. You think, okay, this is really, really bad. This is not good. What on earth can I do right now to fix or make this situation better? And you blank out everything else. And obviously on a boat, you're thinking, how do I fix the leak? What can I do to get the engine working, or etc., etc. So it's a different set of questions you're asking or actions you're looking to take. But it's the same principle. You have to remove yourself emotionally, stop yourself, be very still in your head, and think very clearly, what can I do right now here to fix and help the situation?
And I know some of you out there are going to say, oh, but when there's a traumatic thing happening or this major event happening, you can't help but get emotional. You know, that's just a human behavior, is to get emotional. But if we wind back a little bit, there's studies to show that you can control what you think. Now, the reason that I'm saying that is because you can't have an emotion in your body or in your mind somewhere without it being produced by a thought first. The emotion does not exist without the thought. So what you have to do is to control the thought first.
And you did your thesis on the fact that you can actually control your thoughts.
That's right. My PhD was all about this. You can control your thoughts once they pop into your head. But once they're in your head, there is a choice on what you do with them. Whether you choose to let them take you down a negative, destructive path that's not going to do you or anybody any good, or whether you decide to say, no, I'm not going to accept that thought. What I'm going to think is, what do I need to do to help this situation?
And get rid of that negative thought. So this is a proven PhD-based research study and further research that shows that these processes do actually work very, very well. The other way to explain how it's yourself that has the control over how an event affects you is because the same event can happen to different people, and some people will fall apart and other people will be fine. So obviously it's not the event that causes the falling apart, it's you personally and how you personally inside your own head process that situation. So you can choose to have that falling apart reaction, or you can actively say, no, I'm not going to let that external event get me upset or get me reacting this way. I will actively change my thought processes, go down a different path of thoughts, and come out with a completely different reaction of my own choosing.
That's going to be positive, constructive, uplifting, and empowering. And that's the choice here. And I think the biggest aha moment for a lot of people when we explain this to people, because we have done conferences and workshops with this, is that awareness of you aren't just a victim of your own thought or your emotional state or an event that's happening. You actually can be in the power seat by the knowledge that you can choose your own thought, which chooses the emotion that you're feeling at the time. So that's a big one. But the really cool thing is you are not a victim of your own thoughts, which means you can control your thoughts and you can control your emotion. It takes a bit of practice for sure, but the important thing here is the awareness that you can do it.
You do have to start being aware of those thoughts that are inside your head, because most people have the thoughts, they don't even doubt them or have a second consideration for them, they just let them be there. And that's traditional cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, actually just tells people to cope with those thoughts. That's absolutely not necessary. Get rid of the silly
They're not doing you any good, so get rid of them.
Yeah, get rid of them and replace them with positive thoughts, positive empowering thoughts that are going to help you and help you in the situation and get to wherever you want to get to, because it is absolutely 100% in your control.
We have to also acknowledge that when you're a sailor and you choose to sail, there's a type of strong resilience present anyway. So once people understand that they can use this resilience for their own good instead of going, oh no, this is going to be a disaster, this is going to happen. Once they understand that they have control over what happens next in their own head, in their own mind, sailors tend to step up and be really good at this process once they're introduced to it. What I'm saying is the sailors that are already out there are already resilient. A lot of them are resilient, a lot of them are strong, a lot of them are fit, a lot of them are, because you have to be because of this type of lifestyle. And you grow fitter. The longer you are on the ocean, you grow fitter, you grow stronger, you grow wiser, you grow more resilient.
Grow more humble.
Yeah, and all of those things. So there's a certain strength of character already present when you're a sailor.
And absolutely, it comes from the fact that you're out there in the middle of the ocean all by yourself, and when something happens, you are it. You have to fix it. So
self-reliant.
You have to learn a variety of skills, and the longer you're out there, the more skills you develop. But we know that when disasters occur or when they're in the process of occurring, a lot of people have not prepared themselves for it. So this is what we're hoping to get you to start focusing on, knowing what to do next and how to think instead of falling apart and ending up in fetal position.
Look, we're not saying whatever tragedy happens, is not a big deal. Of course they're big deals. They're major things that happen to people and happen to your life and your whole world. We're not saying, oh, just pretend it's not happening. What we're saying is, sure, you can acknowledge it and go, holy heck, this is really bad, but I'm not going to let that pull me down that road. What do I need to do to make it less bad? What do I need to do to fix the situation? Is there anything I can do right now? Is the most important question that you can ask yourself, instead of going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the boat's
filling up with water.
We're going to lose a boat, which is very common. Even though you feel that, and that might be that first thought that goes through your head, you don't have the luxury. If you want to get out of it with less damage, you do not have the luxury of going down that road. Yeah. You have to put all those thoughts aside and you have to go, I refuse to listen to those thoughts. What do I have to do now? What can I do that's in my control that I can do right now? Which might be securing something. If there's a sail torn or flapping, or there's something in danger.
If there's a leak, work out where it's coming from, see if you can stuff something in from the inside or from the outside. Make sure you've got the emergency pumps working, etc., etc. And if the boat is going to sink, well, you still have action that you have to take. You have to get your valuables, you have to launch the life raft and do a whole lot of other things. There is very seldom nothing you can do or nothing you need to do. There's always something you probably should be doing.
So guys, understanding the power of what your mind can do, or how it can be destructive or how it can be empowering, is really professional background for us, because we've had a number of papers published on the subject, and we've also written 2 books on the subject. So we
and Elizabeth's
and my PhD
thesis was on exactly this subject.
Exactly. We do know what we're talking about here. It's been tried, practiced and proven, and it does really work. But the trick here is, it's like medicine.
If you don't take your tablets, it's not going to help you, and if you don't use these processes, they're not going to help you either.
They can't help you.
So while the processes are there for anybody to use, and they're all free, if you don't use them, if you don't practice them, you will not get any benefit, guys. And they are useful in everyday life as well.
So guys, one of the things we did is we compiled all these processes that are going to help you with these situations in a process called Tough Minds.
The Tough Minds app is available for free. There are no in-app payments or anything like that. It's completely funded by our YouTube money and our Patreons.
Thank you very much
for that. And it saves lives all the time, certainly on a regular basis. It's in 65 countries around the world and is being used regularly. There are also processes for improving sleep and relaxation and all that sort of stuff. But the fundamental steps are the 4 no-nits processes, which are controlling your negative impulsive thoughts, which are these stupid things that are telling you you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're never going to...
boat's going to sink, you're going to lose the boat, you're all going to die. All of those things that pop into your head, all those negative thoughts that pop into your head, we call NITs, negative impulsive thoughts. And there's processes on Tough Minds, the 4 basic processes to help you control your negative thoughts.
Okay, so let's get into more detail about dealing with an acute emergency situation on a boat. So there's 2 sides to any emergency. One is the physical and one is the emotional. We'll deal with the emotional one first because that's going to hit you first, actually.
Well, if you're so emotional, you can't do anything physically because you're a blubbering mess.
And we've said already that if you are emotional, you cannot think rationally. The 2 sides of the brain, the emotional side will completely eliminate your ability to think rationally. So if you start getting emotional and highly strung, you have to take a step back, have a breath, slow yourself down and say, I need to figure this one out. This is not good. This is a very bad situation. What do I need to do? Pull yourself back into activating the rational side of your mind.
Asking yourself a question is the way to pull yourself back. What can I do right now?
So it's really important to make sure you avoid accepting in your own head all those thoughts that are saying we're going to die, we're going to sink, everything, this is a complete disaster and there's nothing you can do. Because the more you think that, the more you're actually stopping yourself from taking the action to do the steps that may actually help you.
So it's kind of like a self-fulfilled prophecy. If you believe that there's nothing you can do, you're going to sink, you know, everything's going to be lost or whatever, guess what? Chances are that's what's going to happen.
You'll throw up your hands and say, it's much
There's
too hard
nothing I
for
can
me. We'll just walk away.
Yeah. And it's interesting. The analogy I like to give is, you know, when you're driving along the road and you're looking at something, wherever you look, that's where the car's going to go. That's where you're going to go. So if you're afraid of smashing into that thing that's on the side of the road and you keep looking at it, that's exactly where your car's going to go. And 9 times out of 10, you'll end up there if you don't shift your focus. So that's what we're saying. Shift your focus to where you want to be going. Not be looking and catastrophizing about all the bad things that can happen. Think about where you want to be. All right, we want to get this floating. We want to, you know, minimize all the damage, get everyone safe, whatever it is, and we're going to get out of here.
So one of the keys with this whole process is having awareness or mindfulness of what's actually going through your head. So open up your awareness to recognize those thoughts as being thoughts, and then you can look at them and assess them to see whether they're actually helping you or not helping you. Are they negative, impulsive thoughts that are going to pull you down, or are they positive, empowering thoughts that'll lift you up? If they're the negative ones, then you've got to get rid of them. But you've got to have this awareness. You've got to actually start watching your thoughts. And I challenge every one of you, actually, this is a good exercise. You go. In your everyday life, guys, take the next few hours and start watching how many positive thoughts and negative thoughts you have in your own head. And then you can start using these processes, because the Tough Minds teaches you how to clean up the negative ones and have your mind full of nice, positive, empowering, positive thoughts.
Because in a situation that looks like a catastrophe, the only emotion that's going to help you is resilience.
And the resilience that gives you the fire in the belly to fight. You know, when you have passion, you want to save your boat. So thinking, oh my God, it's going to sink, it's going to sink. Well, use that fear, if you like, to drive your actions to make it better in whatever way you can. The other aspect of having catastrophes happen, in to whatever extent they get to, you also have to learn to deal with them in the longer term. So those situations don't overwhelm you and make you depressed or negative or anxious or have PTSD. Now, obviously, everybody knows we had a fire that was hugely traumatic, and the fact that the insurance company only offered us a third of the value of the boat and still never paid out fully was something we had to deal with for over 2 years. And yet we had to actively make sure that we didn't let the anxiety or the trauma of that situation, with all the consequent negatives, ruin our life for that period of time, because it could easily have done. There was ups and downs, don't get me wrong. There was huge ups and downs during that time, but we kept focusing on what do we want for ourselves, and we were focused on the positive outcome that we were wanting to get. When you have been through a trauma, and especially if it's an ongoing long-term trauma, you've got to make sure you use these same processes to avoid letting yourself fall down into depths of depression or PTSD, anxiety down the track as well. And these processes will help you through coping with the after effects of a traumatic event as well.
So the other aspect that you need to deal with is the physical aspect. We've already talked about the emotional, so now we talk about the physical. And the physical entails those things that you need to do physically to save your boat, save your life, save everybody else's life too. So in medicine, there's the ABC process, which is a really good yardstick. So would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, the reason to have these sort of simple ways of thinking about it is so in the emergency situation, it comes back to your memory. The A is action. What action do I need to take now? You need to protect yourself from danger, so immediately make sure you get rid of flogging ropes or things that are going to immediately harm yourself or others. You then need to focus on dealing with the people who have injuries, assess their needs immediately, And then after that, you assess the needs of the boat. What's happened, what's the danger, are we sinking, how long is it going to take? Then out of that, decide on the action steps you can then take. And also you need to prioritize. So there are some things you have to do absolutely immediately. There are some things that can wait 5 minutes, and there are some things that can wait 30 minutes or a couple of hours. You need to be having all these thoughts going through your head as you are in that situation in total chaos, because there will be chaos around you, but you have to be thinking, what do I have to do, which steps do I have to take first, etc., etc. And of course the C is call for help. You at all times you need to be thinking, what are the time frames for this situation to progress? How quickly, if we have to call for help, how quickly do we call for help, and when do we launch the life raft? Do we have to get all our gear together and put it into the life raft now, or have we got time to wait to see how things progress? All these things are very logical and sensible when you're thinking about it, but as long as you've thought about it and have in your own mind those steps for when and if the situation ever arises for you, then you'll be able to take those steps yourself. But it comes back to absolutely the most important thing is to not become catastrophic and saying we're going to die, this is awful, the boat's going to sink.
We call it catastrophizing. Thinking of all the worst case scenarios that could possibly happen, and you can think of all of them.
Yeah. And of course, though that catastrophizing is really good for selling YouTube videos because you get a lot more views, but in reality, you shouldn't be behaving like that. That is not the way to manage both yourself or your boat. But for YouTube, it works very well because more people view it, which is a bit sad. So the other thing that's really, really important about you and your attitude on a boat, when it's especially important, is if you have children. Now, we have sailed with kids. I sailed with kids when they were 1.5 and 2.5 across the North Sea and the Mediterranean. We've sailed with them as young 10 and 11-year-olds, and then as older age and teenage years as well. And children are very susceptible to picking up attitudes, good attitudes or bad attitudes.
Yeah, this is really scary because there's a lot of sailing families out there in the YouTube world and even not in YouTube world. But what's really, really important to note is that however you respond as an adult to whatever's happening in a situation, your children are learning to respond in exactly the same way, or maybe more even traumatized because they feel very fearful seeing the parent out of control. So if nothing else, to try and protect your children from ending up with PTSD or anxiety or all of these things, because they will pick up exactly the behavior of the adult. And they'll form their own conclusions. They often get fearful.
Illogical conclusions.
And so that in itself is really super important, that you, as an adult, the sailing adult, try to control your emotions and try to teach them to think rationally and not fall apart at the seams, because that's going to impact on them, and that's trauma that they shouldn't have to deal with. If they see the adult is in control and they're looking at you taking action and going, all right, this is what we need you guys to do, get down in the hull or get up on the deck or blah blah blah, and give them distinct clear orders and instructions, the kids will feel safe. If you're flapping around and you're saying we're going to die, or can you imagine the impact emotionally that would have on those children? For goodness sake, guys, learn to control whatever it is that's going on in that boat. Learn to control the words that come out of your mouth. Even if you're feeling it inside, don't let those negative words come out, because they are going to seriously impact your children.
Or your wife. We haven't really covered this yet, but when you're in the middle of a situation, make your discussions clear. If you only shout if you have to speak to somebody far away with a lot of background noise. Keep your voice down as much as possible. Only say things once, and if they've heard what you're saying, don't keep shouting at them. Say, pull the sail harder, pull the sail harder. Pull the sail as hard as you can, and then shut your mouth. Because if they're doing as hard as they can, there's no point screaming and screaming and screaming at them, because that's not going to help anyone. They'll be there thinking, oh my God, I can't do this. And they'll just be feeling that you are criticizing them. In an emergency situation, say things once and everybody shut up unless they've got something really important to say. The worst scenario, I believe, when you're dealing in an emergency is if you have everybody shouting at everybody else. Nobody hears the really important instructions coming from the person who's in charge.
But that's a whole other episode, really. But anyway, we just wanted to touch on the children because there are a lot of people sailing with children out there, and your actions, your words can seriously impact on your babies. So please be careful what you say and how you handle situations.
But even your behaviors without the words can convey a lot more than you ever imagine. So guys, in summary, the main points are that you need to have awareness of the thoughts you're actually thinking and then make an active decision about what you do with them. The second point is that you have absolute control of the thoughts you have in your head. This is proven with research, but most people are not aware that they can actually control their own thoughts. The final major point is that any disempowering thoughts that you have, you need to eliminate from your brain. And the way you do this is all shared in the Tough Minds program, which is free and both on the app, and we are going to release some videos so you can watch it on YouTube as well.
So guys, check out the playlist. It'll be under Tough Minds and you'll find all you need right there.
They're available on YouTube for a short time only, so check them out and give us some feedback on how you go with them.
As John said, these techniques improve your life tremendously. And for all those budding sailors out there and all those people that want to make this their lifestyle, it's really super important to get this in order first. So, and this is going to help you. So before we wind up, guys, we'd just like to send our heartfelt sympathies out to the Vagabond and also the Wynns. And we know you guys are strong. We know that you're resilient and
you got great attitudes.
You're amazing people, and we know that you'll come out the other side and you'll be bigger, better, stronger than ever.
Absolutely, and the problems will have resolutions over time, and we wish you all the best with that and wonderful sailing going forwards.
So Patreons, this is the type of work that we do on a daily basis. So thank you for your wonderful input, your wonderful donations, and it helps us share what we do with other people.
So just in the last 48 hours, we've been actually actively helping 2 specific people with severe malignant disease or cancers in really difficult circumstances, and we've been providing support and advice for them. Tough Minds allows us to do all this for free. We appreciate all the support that you guys are giving us in order to allow that to happen.
So guys, that's it from us this week. We hope you can take something out of this episode. It's a little left to the middle, but this is what we do. That's it from us, guys. Bye from the Barefoot Doctor Sailing.
All the best. Bye.
Also, thanks to our awesome Patreons for helping us help others in need. Until next week, guys, hold fast to your dreams, for like the wind in the sails, they propel you towards endless possibilities.